Good morning, PAHCOM. This is Jamie Schichtel, the president of the Traverse City chapter of PAHCOM. We're here today with Mike Filkins of Central Professional Services to talk about revenue cycle management and front office strategies related to that. Just wanted to go through a couple of housekeeping items before we get started with our presentation today. There is a comment box at the bottom to communicate with the presenter. So if you have questions, please feel free to put those in there. We do have a moderator on the call today, Terry, who will be asking Mike questions at the end of his presentation. So feel free to enter questions as you have them. Can you hear me now? We are speaking. If you can't hear me, please check your speaker settings. We have a lot of space in today's webinar, so if you need to log out and log back in, please feel free to do that. There will be continuing education credits offered for today's presentation for both CMM and HITCMPP. The index numbers will be emailed to all attendees after the webinar is complete, and you can go ahead and enter those in your CEU log. After the webinar, look for an email with a link to the recording and your CEU index numbers. Some webinars are uploaded to youtube.com/PAHCOM. And you can also check the member library for any materials referenced in the webinars or slides today. As you know, PAHCOM shares knowledge. So with the pandemic, we are doing things virtually, and we are stepping up to communicate openly and share knowledge. While the information often helps small practices operate more effectively, PAHCOM does not make any guarantees regarding the efficacy nor accuracy of the information shared. PAHCOM accepts no responsibility for the material, advice, nor opinions of the presenters. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation, Revenue Cycle Management and Front Office Strategies. I'm happy to present to you Mike Filkins. He is the Sales and Marketing Lead for Central Professional Services. He has partnered with healthcare executives across Michigan to develop and implement effective collection strategies to improve profitability. Mike spent the first few months at Central Professional Services as a collector to learn the operation side of the business before transitioning into his current role. Thank you so much for being here today, Mike.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's presentation. I want to thank Jamie and Gail for allowing us to do this. We recently decided to become a sponsor, and we're really looking forward to being a part of PAHCOM. During today's presentation, feel free to ask questions as it comes up. Want to keep it casual. We're definitely used to interruptions in the debt collection business, so please feel free to ask. As Jamie said, I handle the sales and marketing here at Central Professional Services, and also handle client services to field any issues we may be having, just to continue to help our clients succeed. And prior to my current role, was in the collection department on the phones all day dealing with consumers, and by doing so, I was able to understand how the big picture works and how I can better help my clients to more effectively use a collection agency when needed. The agency's been here since 1976, third-party collections, and we've primarily done medical debt recovery. We've got a team that has a combined total of over 185 years experience in medical debt recovery, and I'm hoping today that we can share some knowledge and insights with you to improve your in-house efforts. We can move to the next slide, Jamie. So I want to cover a few areas that I think will help you kind of minimize internal costs and still maintaining a friendly environment for your patients. Give you the true costs of using a collection agency versus in-house collection, and then also help you identify financial leakages, if you will, and then define new systems, implement them, and then some best practices to ensure your continued success. We can go to the next slide. Patient-friendly practice. We always use this photo. It gets everyone smiling. Service with a smile is important. You can move to the next slide, Jamie. So setting the standard for our patients' experience, and then also the expectations. We can do that before we even see a patient, setting the expectations with our new patient paperwork, defining office policies, financial responsibilities. Will give them a clear expectation of what to expect being part of your practice. We want to collect as much demographic information as possible and then continue to update that from scheduling through checkout to consistently verify this information with the goal of providing positive experience in every interaction. Move to the next slide, please. So the patient experience is more important than ever. As you know, we have choices now in where we receive our medical care. Considering the hospitals that are within driving distance, you can imagine how many different primary care providers, specialties, that kind of thing are within driving distance. So we want to make sure that we're providing our consumers with the best of the best when it comes to service, experience, and how they are treated in our practice. Starts with providers all the way through the check-in and checkout, and even down to the facility cleanliness. We don't want to lose good paying customers to something that we can control. Move to the next slide, please. So who are the best people that we can control this with? It's everyone, like I said, from scheduling, reception, the gatekeepers, anyone but the providers. We want the providers to focus on what they do best. It is treating patients. Move to the next slide, please. So we want to make sure that we have the right team members in the right place. There's people that just don't ask for money. I know I've experienced it where you go to an office and you have a copay, but you're never asked, and then later you get a bill. So if we're never asking for payment at the time of service, we're never going to get it. Especially with the amount of new employees that are coming into offices right now, we want to make sure that everyone understands the office billing collection process and understand how important that is to the overall success of the practice. Money walks out every day, and we always like to say, this could be the last time we see this consumer. So we want to make sure that we're always asking. The next slide, please. So aside from asking for payments, we always want to make sure that we're asking for demographic information. As you can see, date of birth, social security number, and primary insurances, secondary insurances, and even tertiary insurance is always important. And we want to make sure that we're verifying every time we speak with the patient that this information is up to date. Sometimes they'll ask why they're getting asked so much. If they switch employers, we don't want to be billing an insurance policy that's with their previous employer, therefore getting denied. So we want to make sure that all the information is up to date. Now, similar to when we have a minor, we want to make sure we have the guarantor's information. And even if you can get the spouse's information, that is always helpful. We always want to ask detailed questions, and you never want to assume anything. This can obviously get us in trouble, so we want to make sure that we're being respectful and positive, but always asking the right questions, detailed questions. We can move to the next slide, please. So when we're asking for information from the patients, we can use talk tracks, we call them here, kind of outline what you might say on the phone when you're scheduling an appointment. Obviously, the top one's a very common one to use. Be happy to schedule your appointment. I just need to verify that all the information we have for you is correct. This will make sure that they're receiving the correct treatments, under the right insurance policies, that kind of thing. If they have a previous balance, this is also a good time to remind them of that. So you have a previous balance of $25. Will you be paying for that today? Or would you like to pay for that at the time of service? Offer your payment options and proceed accordingly. We can move to the next slide, please. So why do we collect at the time of service? As you can see, 18% of provider revenue comes from patient pay, and it's even more so in the hospitals. And obviously this is due to high insurance deductibles. These dollars are dependent on our team collecting payments and correct information at the time of service. This will obviously any dollars that are not collected and end up being placed with an agency will eat into our bottom line. We've worked closely with a family practice here on increasing the in-house collections, and also the collection accounts that they need to send to us are even more collectible now because they're asking the right questions and asking for the detailed information. Big thing to remember right now, I mean, people are spending money still. They're still spending outside their means. They have the money to pay, they're just choosing not to pay us. So we want to make sure that when they're in our office, or they're going to be in our office, that we're asking for that payment, asking for that information, because this could be the last time that we see them potentially. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. The current practice that I was referring to, by implementing some of these things, they've decreased the number of statements they're sending out by 75%, which is a huge amount. And like I said, the accounts that we are getting from them are more collectible than previously. Move to the next slide, please. So when you're asking people for money or asking for information, there's ways that we can do so in a friendly way. You always want to be firm and fair with people. Obviously, right from the beginning, just set that expectation that they will be responsible for their copays at the time of service, or have an arrangement made before they leave the office. Always identify them by name. We don't want to call them Mr. or Miss. Keep it informal. We want to let them know that we know who we're dealing with. Be sure to identify yourself and help them understand what the co-payments for, what the balances are for, and the procedures that they have. Always want to thank them for being a part of your practice. After all, they are supporting you. And the biggest goal here is to help them understand their responsibilities, financially, and help them reach a solution if there's an issue in paying today, whether that be a payment agreement or having a credit card on file, that kind of thing. We always want to make sure that we have a solution before they leave the office, because we don't want to send statements after statement after statement. If we can move to the next slide, please. Speaking of statements, how much it really costs to send statements. This one, when I first learned about this, was pretty eye-opening. I'll move to the next slide, please. When someone says, send me a bill, or just keep brushing you off in terms of payment, they have a copay of $150. The consumer doesn't pay at the time of service. We send 3 statements, $4 a piece, and then the billing company will send a bill or two, and the account ends up coming to collections and is recovered rate of 32%. You can see the office will net $78.50. And then next slide, please. Obviously, this is the ideal situation. The consumer has a copay of $150. Time of scheduling, we have to let the consumer know that their expected copay is going to be $150, and that will be due at the time of service. So when they check in, the receptionist will ask for $150 payment. The office takes the $150 payment in full. Also, moving forward, Jamie, if we're not asking for patient information, people will ask, is it really that important? Well, here's a good example. This photo here is 1 week of mail returns here in the office. There's almost 1,800 letters there. Each of those envelopes costs about 80 cents to be returned. And at 80 cents a letter, we're looking at almost $1,500, and no money was returned to our clients. By not verifying demographic information here, obviously the physical mailing address really can add up quickly. And of those returns, we've been tracking about 76% of those returns that we get will never be delivered to the patients. They don't have a forwarding address. There was non-existent address, that kind of thing. So we always want to make sure that in every interaction we are verifying that the patient, current mailing address, things of that nature. Move forward, please. So an example of someone coming into the office and seeing the doctor and not being able to pay, we want to make sure that our follow-up is consistent, and we want to make sure they understand their responsibilities. Here's kind of an example of a patient that had a balance and then a previous balance, and offer the ways that they can pay and come up with a solution. Big secret here for you. When you pose the question, I see you have a balance total of $90 today. How would you like to pay for that? We accept cash, check, or credit card, and then pause and listen. This is a big one. And if there's a win-lose situation here, the first person to speak after you let them know about their balance will lose. We like to let the consumer tell us what they're able to do. If they say, I don't have $90 today, you want to ask them, how much can you pay today? I can pay $45 today or $40. And when can you pay the remaining balance to get paid next week? Say, no problem, we'll charge your card today for $45, and then next week, when you get paid, you can charge the remainder. Now, this is important and it works. I promise the money will come if you do this, as long as everyone is doing it and it's consistent. This is another great example of not letting the money get away. We have options in how we can motivate our staff. The family practice I told you about that has eliminated 75% of their statements. They have contests in their office every week or every month. If they're getting all of the correct information or they're getting a payment at the time of service, they put their name into a hat and they're getting a $25 gas card or a gift card of that nature. This will help reinforce the goals that you have in wanting to develop these new habits, and it'll also keep your team interested and positive about it. It's good for everyone in the office, because who doesn't like a good competition? I know here in the office at Central Professional, we have competitions for things like gas cards, gift cards, lottery tickets, lunch of our choice, cocktail hour with the boss, whatever it takes. It's a lot of fun in it, and it keeps everyone productive. Definitely the family practice, it's good luck getting out of there without paying, or at least making arrangements to do so. All right, we can move to the next. So some things to remember here. This could be the last time the consumer's in the office. Like I said, if they don't plan on paying you and they want to just move down the road, we want to make sure that we've got all of their correct information, employer, social security number, those kinds of things. It honestly will be the difference of getting paid or not getting paid. And we want to avoid sending more statements, because statements will never collect more money than getting the payment in full at the time of service, or having the updated information to proceed otherwise. Move to the next slide, please. So this is, I wanted to share this. This is what a collector looks at with the information that we are sent. As you can see, there's a lot of information that we are able to record. If every account came over like this, we would be doing very well. So what we try to do is get as much information as possible from our clients, and then when we reach out to the consumer, we are verifying this information, asking for additional information, and then beginning the process of helping them fulfill their obligations. Let's move to the next slide, please. So in order to succeed with all of this, we have to have buy-in from everyone, including the providers, administration, and for everyone to be involved, it will be successful. We've seen it. We continue to do this with our clients today. We want to monitor our results with the new processes that we put in place. Every place is different, but we want to make sure that we're monitoring our progress, encouraging our team members, and teaching them along the way. Obviously, like I said, the games, prizes will motivate everyone, and it'll help you achieve the end goal. You obviously keep learning. As part of our service, we always continue to provide professional development for our clients as needed with whatever they may be dealing with. And I think that will be the end for me. Appreciate it, and definitely go ahead with any questions. There's my contact information. If you have any questions after this, I'll be happy to help.
Great, thanks, Mike. Terry?
Yes.
Yes, Jamie, I do have a few questions from a few attendees. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. We have quite a few questions, if you can bear with me here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have one attendee wondering in regards to a collection policy for handling when you have a deceased patient account who has no insurance. How would you handle collection on that?
I'm not positive on that. I can certainly get back with you. If you could send me either in the chat the contact information, I'd be happy to get that answer for you.
Okay. I have another question where the attendee is asking, what do we do if a patient does not want to give out their social security number, or are we even allowed to ask for a social security number?
That is always a tricky question. We've got offices that ask for that, and then, to verify insurance information, or say if we can't take your social security number, then payment will be due in full the day of service. It's just kind of a protection for you. Driver's license, if possible. Someone's adamant about not giving it to you, I would say the driver's license is the best you can do there.
Okay, thank you. I have another question from Frances. She's asking, how can we improve collecting at a time of service during a pandemic with parking lot waiting rooms, telehealth encounters versus live visits?
Well, obviously we can do, payments over the phone, make arrangements when they're scheduling the appointment. I know it's kind of new territory for everybody. So, but essentially, it's a waiting room in the parking lot versus indoors. So either, make payment arrangements prior to the appointment or the day of, either take payment over the phone or through the attendee into the parking lot.
Okay, and I have another question from Gigi. She's wanting to know, they do not keep credit card information in their office. They don't keep it on hand. So what would you recommend for safely keeping a consumer's information?
You can either schedule a follow-up call or I don't know if you can set something up we store a certain amount of card information, but we still need the code on the back. So we like to, you can either schedule the next call or store it on the computer there.
Okay, and I believe those were all the questions that we have for you, Mike, but there are a couple for you, Jamie, in regards to a few attendees asking if they will receive copies of the slides or if a video would be available at a later date.
Yes, PAHCOM will post the video, as I said at the beginning, and also I believe slides will be available as well. I can go back to the slides presentation for PAHCOM. Can you guys see the slides, or you can't see the slides anymore, can you?
No.
Here we go.
There you go.
Yeah, so let's just keep going through here. So after the webinar, look for an email with a link to the recording and your CEU index number. Some of the webinars are loaded to youtube.com/PAHCOM. Now, I think that's related to sound quality and things like that. So I don't think they post all of them, but please check the member library for the information after the presentation. Should be available within a week, I would say. Mike, I do have one question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So I was recently, is the 90-day statement cycle still the industry benchmark, or is that changing? I was kind of told that it appears we should be billing more frequently than every 30 days, maybe amping up the 3-statement cycle a bit.
Oh, you're saying the number of statements prior to sending to collections?
Yeah.
We like to get them within 90 to 120 days. It's really different from office to office. So 90 days is pretty good.
Okay. Terry, have there been any additional questions?
You just cut out a little. Yeah.
Terry,
I'm having problems hearing you, Jamie.
That's okay. Are there any additional questions?
Just one more for you, and that was apparently in the reminder email for today's presentation, there's an area where it apparently says no CEU credit is available for audio only mode, and one of our attendees doesn't have video on their computer and could only follow along without audio. So she's questioning whether she will qualify for a CEU or not.
I'm sorry. I don't think I have the answer to that question, but we could get the information for Karen or Simon at PAHCOM so that they can help to answer that question for her. So if you want to get her
Okay.
information, we can go ahead and have them get in touch with her.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, if there's no additional questions, I just want to give a big thank you to Mike and Central Professional for presenting to us today with some valuable information and sharing your knowledge with PAHCOM. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And we will see you again next month. Thank you all.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.